Hey everyone, welcome back to Dev Parkour. I'm Brian Parks, and in this video, we're going to talk about JavaScript. But before we do, I do want to apologize for the audio in yesterday's video. Apparently there was a plane flying overhead, and that made the audio kind of iffy. I am in the process of looking for some better audio options. So if you happen to know of something that works really well with an iPhone, ideally a Bluetooth. Right now I'm using the AirPods, but if you know of something that works really well with iPhone and maybe ideally with other things as well, my Mac or my Windows machine that I do some other recording on, leave a comment below. I'd be really interested to hear what you use. So let's get into JavaScript. So yesterday we talked about what languages you should use in 2021, and I mentioned that for the front end, your only option was JavaScript, but then you were faced with a bunch of other choices as far as JavaScript frameworks are concerned. Now I could spend this video talking about Angular and React and Vue and Ember, I think, was on my list, and that was my initial intent. But I realized that there really is more to it than just those front-end UI frameworks. Yes, that's kind of the easy choice and kind of the popular choice, but most of us, especially if we've been doing this for a long time, we either got into JavaScript either by doing what's now called vanilla JS, just JavaScript with no frameworks, or something like Jquery. And full disclosure, I actually didn't start with Jquery even when I started using a framework. I used something called Prototype.js, which was kind of along the similar lines. The reason why starting with Jquery is actually a really good option, even though I'm sure I will say in future videos that you shouldn't be using Jquery, and who knows, I may have even said it in past videos that you shouldn't be using Jquery. The reason for that is that most of what Jquery provides is already available in standard JavaScript in modern browsers. But that being said, JavaScript is still a general purpose, full-featured language, and the value proposition is really you can do whatever you want. It's made for the web, it runs in browsers, but you can do whatever you need to using JavaScript. The beauty of Jquery is that it's really well documented, and there are specific, I don't think they use this term, but I'll use the term recipes, where you can use Jquery to achieve very specific goals that are aligned with many of the goals that you tend to have when you're just starting out writing not even a single page application, but a dynamic application for the browser. Things like making AJAX requests, HTTP calls, moving things around in the DOM, hiding and showing things, some of those animations and stuff like that. Those are the things that come to mind. Jquery makes them really simple and has really good documentation on how to do those things. And even if many of them, certainly the AJAX calls and the DOM manipulation, that's basically there in modern JavaScript, but Jquery does make that really easy. Now, somewhere in between Jquery and some of those bigger UI frameworks like Angular and React and Vue, you do have things like Knockout.js and Backbone.js that kind of take it a step further and start getting you moved in the direction of templates. Is the way I've seen, especially Knockout used a lot, is to templatize parts of your. Okay, and now we have a plane, so I apologize if you can't hear what I'm saying. It's a really nice day. I guess it's nice to go out flying. Right. So anyway, Knockout and Backbone, they're kind of the middle ground between Jquery, which allows you to do some of that, simple stuff. That's probably the stuff you're gonna need to do initially, especially if you're moving from just a kind of your typical server client request response model web application which is, I think, the way most of us started developing. It's certainly the way the internet as a whole migrated, right? Single page applications are a relatively recent development, really enabled by things like Angular and React and Vue and Ember and those sorts of things. But yeah, kind of the stepping stone in between is to start taking modular components of your HTML and CSS and turning them into templates. And that's what some of those middle ground UI frameworks enable for you. And then finally, we have those full-featured, in the case of Angular, it's basically an application framework. In the case of React and Vue and, well, Ember kind of falls somewhere in between all three of them. But some of them are very specifically UI frameworks, and some of them are more application frameworks that are basically enable you to build an application 100% in the browser. So I've used many of them, extensively React and Vue. I really like them. Angular, not so much. Ember, I've tried to get into, and I just haven't yet. So my thoughts on when you might use each of them go something like this. Angular, great if you're doing a greenfield project and you want to do things the Angular way. If it makes sense to you and you want to just kind of follow their playbook, go for Angular. Ember, like I said, I haven't really used it all that much, and I think they've made a lot of improvements since I last looked at it. So my knowledge is certainly out of date. But like I said, it's kind of somewhere in between. It's not as opinionated as Angular, but it does provide some of the framework for more of an application type bent than just a UI framework. So if you're looking for something that kind of gets you started, batteries included, that sort of thing, Ember might be a good option. And then React and Vue, I see as the most comparable of all four of them. They're both UI frameworks. They both have a huge community of support. You can build the same types of applications in both of them. Well, in all four, really. But I really see React and Vue as kind of an equivalent choice. For me, when I started out, I really liked Vue because I was coming from the kind of the template world. Vue really made sense because Vue thinks in templates, and your template is basically a giant JavaScript string, and that was really easy for me. In fact, I used that to my advantage at a previous job. There was a decision between should we use Vue, should we use React. I chose Vue because I could build my UI logic in Vue, and then I could basically open up an extensibility point and basically say, if this particular variable is defined by the rest of the group that was working on other things, use that as my Vue template. Assume that it follows certain rules, is a valid Vue template, and I could tell them, here are the things that I'm exposing, so you can, iterate over it was a little chat application, so you can iterate over the messages collection in this way, and other than that, you decide the HTML, and my stuff will just render it the way it's supposed to. And then I could provide a fallback. Vue makes it really easy to do that. Some might say that's an anti-pattern, but that's something that Vue enables because of the way it's structured. Since then, I've actually really gotten into React, especially since React started using functional components. So the class-based components really, they just didn't make sense to me. I didn't really like them. I tried React, back in the day when class-based components were the only thing that were there, and I just couldn't get the hang of it. That's why I switched over to Vue. It just felt more natural to me. But now, with functional components, I don't know, something's different, something clicked. React really makes sense to me. I really enjoy React. And I actually find myself, when I go back to some of the projects that I started in Vue, thinking things like, why can't I do this in Vue? I want to do this React thing in Vue. I have even thought about switching from Vue to React, but that's still an up in the air decision. I probably won't switch from Vue to React at this point, but I haven't settled on a clear direction for that. But React is fantastic because especially well, I guess Vue did something recently as well that makes it really easy. Either one of them, really, you can kind of piecemeal your application into a more modern way of thinking. So if you have a bunch of pages that are either ASP.NET, web forms, or ASP.NET, MVC, Razor pages, that sort of thing, and you want to move it in the direction of get it closer to a single page application, in my mind, it's a lot easier to do that with Vue or React because you can specifically call out a chunk of the application and say this will be a React app and plug it in. You can even have multiple of those on the same page, so you can start turning your header into a React component and maybe a sidebar into a React component, while the rest of the page is all still, the old stuff. Or maybe it makes sense to do it the other way around. You get to choose. You don't have to start from the outside and work your way in. You don't have to start from the inside and work your way out. You can componentize into React or Vue whatever parts of the application you want to first, and then gradually over time you will have an entire React application. I think that's pretty cool. I think that's really valuable because most of us are not going to be working on greenfield projects. Most of us are going to be working on legacy projects, and for a long time the mentality with legacy projects has been that it was written in one technology. We're going to keep it written in that same technology because rewriting it in a new technology would be costly, both from the amount of time it takes to rewrite the application and the amount of bugs that we might introduce because it's a different technology. We don't quite have a one-to-one correlation. And I agree 100%. Rewriting is in most cases not the right solution. But if you can find an evolutionary path, that is the right solution. That's something that I'm really passionate about. I'm sure there will be more videos on that on the channel, so I won't go into depth on that today. But if you like this video, go ahead and hit that like button. Again, if you have any recommendations on microphones that I can use to record this sort of video, go ahead and leave a comment down below and then leave a link. I don't even mind if they're Amazon affiliate links. I will click them. If you find a solution for me, I'm more than happy to support you. If you want to see more like this, of course, subscribe to the channel. And I do have a couple more technical, screencast type videos planned. Life's been really busy, so I haven't had a chance to do anything like that, but I'm thinking within the next week or 2 or 3, we'll start seeing more of that type of content on the channel. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button, click the notification bell so that when I release the next video, you'll get notified. Hopefully the audio on this video was better than yesterday, but again, I'm still in search of better audio options. So stay tuned. Hopefully better audio to come. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.